Our house was built in 1904. It's one of those classic old wooden homes, the kind that creaks and groans with every gust of wind, resting on a foundation of concrete blocks. I've lived here for over a decade now, and in that time, my siblings and I have seen and heard enough strange things to fill a book. Doors slamming on their own, whispers from empty rooms, footsteps upstairs when everyone is downstairs. You name it, we've probably experienced it. But out of all those stories, there's one particular event, the one that happened to my brother about 10 years ago, that still gives me chills. It remains my absolute favorite and honestly the most unsettling. Back then, my brother was in a garage band with a few of his friends. They were really into Spanish alternative rock and they were pretty good. Sunday afternoons were their sacred practice time. It was the only day everyone was free from work or school, so they'd cram into our basement and gym for hours. They usually wrapped up around 8 o'clock at night, which was perfect timing for me. I worked the night shift back then, so I'd be getting home right as they were leaving, ready to grab a few hours of sleep before heading out. This story takes place in late fall. You know, that time of year when the sun just gives up and goes home super early, and the darkness starts to creep in before you're even done with your day. It was one of those chilly, dark evenings. The band had just finished a long, loud practice session. They were all pretty beat, but still buzzing with energy, and decided to head over to another friend's house to hang out and unwind. My brother, being the generous host, tossed his truck keys to one of his friends. "Hey man, can you guys start loading the gear out? I'll be right up." So, one by one, the band members started filtering out of the basement. Now, you need to picture the layout of our house to really get this. The basement wasn't just a straight shot to the outside. To get out, you had to walk from the very back of the room, climb up the set of old, rickety wooden stairs, which led directly into the kitchen. From the kitchen doorway, you then had to go down a narrow hallway, past the living room, and finally out the front door onto the porch. It was a bit of a maze. So the guys are making the trek, hauling amps and guitars. Soon enough, the whole group was outside, packed into the truck, just waiting on my brother to join them. He was the last one to leave the basement. He'd made it almost to the very top of the stairs, his hand just about to push open the kitchen door, when he remembered something. His leftovers. He had brought down a takeout container with some pancakes from breakfast earlier that day, and had left it sitting on top of one of the large speakers. He let out a sigh. He was tired, he was ready to go, but he wasn't about to leave his pancakes behind. So he turned around and headed back down into the dimly lit basement. Now, I have to explain something about our basement. The sightlines are terrible. It's not one big open space. It's cluttered with old wooden partitions that were probably put up decades ago, creating these weird little nooks and crannies. And right in the dead center of the room sits this huge old heating unit, a big metal beast that blocks your view of pretty much everything. You can't see from one end of the basement to the other. You always feel like you're not seeing the full picture down there. As my brother stepped back onto the concrete floor and moved toward the speaker to grab his food, something moved. It was just at the very edge of his vision, a flicker in his peripheral. He described it as a shadowy figure, tall and thin, just barely visible past one of the partitions. Instantly, he said a wave of cold dread washed over him. It was that primal, gut-wrenching fear that tells you something is very, very wrong. Growing up in this house, we had developed a sort of unspoken rule. We'd always been told by our parents and grandparents that if you ever sense something negative, something that feels unwelcoming, you have two choices. You can either quietly whisper a prayer for protection, or you can stand your ground, be firm, and show that you aren't afraid. My brother, in that moment, chose the latter. He decided he wasn't going to give this thing the satisfaction of seeing him panic. So, without looking directly at the figure, he just kept his eyes forward on his pancakes. He muttered under his breath, I don't have time for this. Leave me alone. His voice was low but firm. He snatched his container off the speaker, turned on his heel, and started heading back toward the stairs as quickly as he could without breaking into a full sprint. As he went, he followed his usual routine of shutting things down, flipping off the basement lights, closing the door at the top of the stairs, then moving through the dark kitchen and into the hallway. He said he could feel it. He could feel something close behind him, a heavy presence that was matching his pace, following his every step. It was the kind of feeling that makes the hair on your arms stand up, that makes your neck tingle. But he refused to look back. He just kept moving, focusing on the path ahead. The final light switch was for the living room, and it was in the most inconvenient spot possible on the opposite side of the room from the front door. But thankfully, the street lamp outside our house cast this warm, amber glow through the front windows, so the room wasn't in complete pitch black darkness. He walked across the living room, feeling that presence dogging his steps the entire way. He reached the wall, his hand found the switch, and he flipped it. The entire house sank into a deep, silent darkness behind him. He didn't hesitate. He stepped outside onto the porch, pulled the heavy front door shut until he heard it click, and then jogged down the porch steps with his container of pancakes still in hand. Our yard is pretty big and open, stretching a good distance from the road. The truck was parked at the curb, its engine rumbling softly. As he got closer, he started to feel a sense of relief wash over him. He even let out a little chuckle at himself. He was just tired, he thought. The band practice was long, the house is old and creepy. He was just letting his imagination get the better of him. It was all in his head. He climbed into the driver's seat, feeling the familiar comfort of his truck. He buckled his seatbelt, put the key in the ignition, and was just about to pull away from the curb. That's when one of his friends in the back seat spoke up. He asked, "Hey, where's your brother? Isn't he coming with us?" My brother just frowned, confused. He glanced in the rearview mirror. "What are you talking about?" "He went to work early tonight. He's not even home." "You saw his car isn't in the driveway." There was a quiet moment. The kind of silence where you can hear everyone thinking. Then another friend, the one sitting right behind the passenger seat, spoke. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Then who was that walking right behind you when you were leaving the house?"